Greetings, Bat Family, and welcome back to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. You can visit our website, holybatcast.com, or find us all over social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. Just search for Holy BatCast, you'll find us. If you love the show and you want to help support us, you can do that on Patreon. No obligation, no pressure, but just in case you want to show your support, you can go to patreon.com/holybatcast. And as always, I got to give a big old thank you and a big virtual hug to all our patrons out there, because they make it so much easier to produce the show, and it is appreciated every single week. So thank you guys. We are also part of the Real Fans Podcast Network. You can check all those shows out at rf4rm.com. And because it's October, I got to keep plugging. Go back to the original Real Fans for Real Movies feed, because we have been doing some fun Halloween episodes. And so if you are in a spooky mood and you want to hear us talk Halloween stuff, go check out the original show, Real Fans for Real Movies. But again, the network, all kinds of fun stuff. Go to rf4rm.com and sample some of those other shows. If you're looking to fill your time, if you're looking to distract yourself from work or life, whatever, go there. And as always, I am your Bat host, Andy DiGenova. You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Letterboxd. It's just my name, Andy DiGenova. Now, Black Adam has arrived. We're going to talk about it. That's right, we have seen Black Adam. It's time to give our initial reviews. It won't be the last time we talk about it, because it never is. But hey, we haven't had a big DC movie in theaters in it feels like a long time, right? I guess March was the last big one. And then DC Super Pets, I wouldn't call it big, but it was out. It's a DC movie. But it feels like a while, and I'm so excited that we've got another, not just one DC character on the big screen, a whole bunch of them, thanks to Black Adam, and we're going to talk about all that. So joining me, it is an interesting episode. First of all, Jamie's sitting it out. He's off on a little weekend trip with the family. As always, he puts the family before us, which I'm not okay with. Kimbra, we got to talk priorities. So yeah, Jamie is sitting this one out, but I'm sure we're going to hear his thoughts about Black Adam next time. And so joining me is my work wife. It's Brendan Lowe. Hi, Brendan.
Good morning. How are you?
Good afternoon, and
good
shout
evening
out to
and good
you.
Night.
Good afternoon, good evening, good night. It's worth saying that, it's very early where you are, and I thank you for that.
That's okay. I just had to roll over and tap you on the shoulder anyway. So
yeah, it's just like it's time, and I'm like, oh, it's so early. Married life, right? Am I right, guys? So thanks for being back. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on Black Adam, and we have a very special guest with us. That's right, the Aussies have taken over Holy BatCast. I am now in the minority. I hope I'll survive, but I'm drinking Foster's just in honor to fit in with you guys. But anyway, it's Aaron Kajanto. Am I saying the last name right? Kajanto?
Close enough. Say it more like an Australian. Kajanto.
Oh, Kajanto.
Yeah.
Okay, Aaron Kajanto. Welcome to Holy BatCast, Aaron.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, Andy. Thank you for the invite, Brendan. I hope I'm not like a third wheel between you two, but
You are, but we're used to it. We have an understanding. We've laid ground rules.
We like a third.
Yeah. The rule is we can only see you together, not separately.
Right. And
which is important. Yeah. The safe word is hierarchy.
There's a segue.
Yeah. Well, it is a pleasure having you, Aaron. You've been a friend of the show for a long time, and it was Brendan's idea of like, hey, why don't we have Aaron on? And I'm like, you're just trying to get people over on your side, but that's fine. That's okay.
I don't know if that's a positive or not, because Brendan's like, hey, come on. I'm like, yeah. Hey, get up at 5 a.m. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if he likes me or hates me. I'm trying to really balance that out now.
Well, to be fair, when he said that, I was like, I feel horrible asking someone to wake up at 5 a.m. to record a podcast, but you did it. You are.
Yeah, well, I'm here for you guys. Like I said before, when Andy wants something, Andy gets it. So I'm
see, you hear that, Brendan? You hear that? It's just like we said to the couples therapist. Like, you never put my needs first.
What have I joined?
No, it's truly a pleasure. It's great to finally talk to you as opposed to just tweeting at you or chatting with you online. It is your first time on Holy BatCast. So before we get to Black Adam, though, we want to talk just about you. I want you to share with me a little bit about your Batman fandom and what's your favorite Batman movie and why.
Oh wow! Oh, I forgot this happens.
Yeah, you
Um,
forgot this is a thing, right?
yeah. Um, I can't really put a finger on it. Like I don't really have a specific. Oh, this moment is when I became a Batman fan. Probably going to show my age a little bit here, but when I was a young tacker in the '80s, what I remember, all I used to watch was Christopher Reeve's Superman movies and Batman '66, the movie. So I used to watch the movie all the time, and I was very lucky in a sense of when I was born that come I was like 10 years old and I was able to get the hyperbole of Batman '89, so which really just started cementing my love for the character from then on. And so yeah, so it was really Batman '66 that really got me into the character altogether. So
I
which
mean,
is
it sounds like we're not too far off in age, though, because, that's not dissimilar from how and when I fell in love with Batman and Superman as well.
well, I'm rolling on 43, mate. So
Hey, I'm 44, so there you go.
oh, there you go. You're just one
There you
ahead of
have
me.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
so you would understand then when come like the '89 love and how we were pretty much at that age bracket where I don't know about you, where the parents would say no, you can't go see it, whereas like I really
Oh
wanted
no,
to go
mine
see it.
mine took me, but maybe that one year made the difference.
Yeah, maybe you're probably a little bit older, a little bit more,
Yeah.
mature. So, but yeah, so that's where I started my love for the character. But my favorite Batman movie would have to be Batman Begins. Um, I just
Attaboy.
absolutely. That's why you had me on. um, I had to adore it. Sorry, I just adore the actual movie altogether. I think it's the most complete Batman film. It gives me everything that I need from the character itself. And yeah, if anyone's going to ask me which one you want to watch, and that'll be the one straight away that I'd pick.
All right. I mean, there's no arguing with that. It's a great choice.
Thank you.
All right. Well, no, it's great to have you here, Aaron. Again, I appreciate you making the time. So I want to thank you for being here. But before we move on to Black Adam, I also have to give another thank you to our sponsor, Manscaped. So here, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to scream really loud. Ah, that's not that loud, but my baby is sleeping. Because I have a horror themed Manscaped ad to share, and it's almost Halloween, so it just felt appropriate. And it was like, oh my god, it's a bloodbath in here. There's got to be a way. I love doing these cold. I have no idea what they wrote. There's got to be a better way to get my dagger clean and shiny more safely than this. This is what I used to deal with when I cut myself shaving before I knew about Manscaped. So thank you to Manscaped for keeping my dagger slick and ready for wherever the night takes me. Manscaped is trusted by over 6 million men worldwide, so join the movement by going to manscaped.com and get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code BATSCAPED. That's BATSCAPED, BATSCAPED. I mean, and this is written for me. I mean, we'll be honest, right? Like, we're all friends here. But it is also true. I've said it before, back when I used to not use Manscaped, when I tried to save a couple dollars and I bought the other trimmers, I ended up bleeding way more than I would ever want to bleed, and especially there. Don't want to bleed there. Manscaped's going to keep the blood on your movie screen and away from your private areas this October. So go to manscaped.com, check it out. End the days. So funny. It's time to end the days of shaving your balls ending up looking like a horror movie. Wow. It's a visual. It's a visual. But the folks at Manscaped do have the perfect package for your package. The below the waist grooming leaders have the performance package, and inside you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, liquid formulas, and 2 free gifts. So I've said it before, say it again. The Lawnmower 4.0 is the best trimmer you can buy, and I'm straight up saying it. It is the best. It's a game changer. If you buy nothing else, look at that. Especially, you can use it obviously for your nether regions, but you can also use it for your face if you want to use your trimmer there. I would say don't use it on both, but either way, it's a great trimmer. It's the best one you're going to find. The battery lasts forever. It's so handy. It's sharp, but it never cuts you. I don't know how it doesn't cut you, but it doesn't. So I'm a big fan of that. And again, in the performance package, you've got the weed whacker, you've got the ball deodorant, you've got all kinds of others. You got the boxers, the travel bag. So it's sort of a nice sampler platter. But if you want to check it out, go to manscaped.com. And again, use the promo code BATSCAPED for 20% off and free shipping. So spend spooky season using the best tools for the job at Manscaped. So please do that. We would appreciate it. Not only are you supporting Manscaped, not only are you supporting your own grooming, you're supporting Holy BatCast in the process. So again, use that promo code BATSCAPED for your 20% off and your free shipping. All right.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. I charged mine for the third time this week, and we got it, last November?
I think, yeah, something like that. But anyway, big thank you to Manscaped. Now it is time to talk about the main event. The main event of the week is Black Adam. So without further ado, it is time to discuss the big man himself, The Rock, bringing Black Adam and other DC characters to life. So let's take a look at the new DC film, Black Adam. Black Adam was released just a couple of days ago. The director is there's another name.
You can tackle this one. I don't want to get cancelled.
I know. Jaume Collet-Serra, maybe.
Sure.
We'll go with that. But he also worked with The Rock on Jungle Cruise. Of course, the star is Dwayne Johnson, but also Aldous Hodge as Hawkman, Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate, Noah Centineo as Atom Smasher, and Quintessa Swindell is Cyclone. And I will also say, I have not looked it up and confirmed, but I do feel like Jaume has a different editor than he had in Jungle Cruise, because the editing in that movie drove me crazy, and I was really worried going into this one, and it did not happen. And I was like, oh, thank God. As long as it wasn't edited by Jungle Cruise, we win. Sorry to spoil that, but I was just like, that was my biggest concern going into this. I'm like, it's the same team as Jungle Cruise, and I kind of like Jungle Cruise, but the editing was maddening. And this one, not maddening. It was fine. But anyway, it is out there now, and we're going to start, as always, with our spoiler-free thoughts, and then we will give you the spoiler warning. So, Brendan, why don't you get us started with your spoiler-free thoughts on Black Adam?
Okay, well, listeners to this show will obviously know it's a movie that I haven't been pumped about. Just because Black Adam is a character that I don't really care about, and he's a Shazam villain, so I want to see him in a Shazam movie. Also, I wasn't sure how they were going to make you care about this character, knowing that in the future, particularly with the events that have happened over the last week or so with this movie, is going to be a villain.
Mm-hmm.
And they pulled it off. I really liked it, and they really did walk that line. Like, they didn't shy away from the fact that he's not a nice guy. He straight up murders people through the whole movie. He steps up when he's needed, but he's still a villain for the most part. And yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with how much I actually really enjoyed it. The JSA cast were really, really good. I think, for me, and I'm not just saying it for the reason that you'll think I am, but I think the MVP was Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. He was fantastic. And Aldous Hodge was really, really good as Hawkman too, but Brosnan was the standout for me. And not just him as the actor.
I'm shocked. No, I'm not that shocked.
Not just him as the actor, but the character of Dr. Fate was a real standout, and that was really, really cool. And yeah, it was. I was thinking about this before, and look, this is totally underselling it, but I'm sure you'll understand sort of where I'm coming from. It felt kind of like a huge budgeted version of Legends of Tomorrow, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, I could see that.
yeah, like a team of superheroes on a big, what would you call it's not really a spaceship, but like a big flying aircraft. Um, Something's happened, they're being called on to go and try and, rein it in and stop it, and an adventure ensues. And yeah, like it's also it for a story that has to tell a lot of backstory, it does that, but it also sort of hits the ground running, and it never really stops. Like, it's one giant action scene pretty much all the way through. And
Yeah, yeah.
but that could be really maddening in other movies, but for this one it kind of works. Yeah, so we can talk more obviously in more detail, but I was genuinely surprised and happy at how much I enjoyed it. And I'm not saying this to stir shit or anything, but in a year that we saw a new Batman movie come out, for Black Adam to be my favorite DC movie was a real shock. But yeah, I really liked it.
All right. Aaron, what about you?
Um, I was very much in line with Brendan, to be honest with you, going into this film. I obviously I think most of us are very self-aware of The Rock and his social media presence and how he likes to sell things. He's a great marketing machine, but he also genuinely feels like the nicest guy out there that'll do anyone for anything. But it got to the point with his social media where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna turn you off because I know that you're really wanting to hype things up. You're a hype man. That's what you do. So I'm gonna base it upon the trailers and all that going in, thinking where my actual attitude will be going into this movie. And like I said before, like very much like Brendan, the trailers never really kind of sold me. It just looked like a so-so kind of film. So I'm like, okay, but it's DC, so I'm going to go see it regardless. So yeah, I went into the theater. I had my expectations in check. Like, right, this is what I'm going to think, and it actually, I really enjoyed it. I actually had a great time. It was so entertaining throughout that there wasn't a moment where I just sat back and I looked at my phone or I looked at my watch or anything like that. I was into it the entire time, and even to the point that when the credits started to roll, I was like, "Oh, that's right." There was a "that's right" moment kind of thing that, like, a little light bulb hit me. I'm like, "Oh, there's more to come," sort of thing. So it's like, but I totally forgot all about it because I was so into the actual movie and how much fun and I enjoyed. And it was one of these things like it was actually quite refreshing as well to actually sit there and just enjoy something. There wasn't anything deep. There wasn't anything multi-layered, kind of like the Batman and all that kind of stuff, which felt, like I really had to be in the film to concentrate what's going on. Where this one, I could just sit back and just enjoy the ride, really. So I really enjoyed Black Adam.
All right. Well, it sounds like we all saw the same movie. Um, I loved it. And I was certainly looking forward to it more than, say, Brendan, and it sounds like you, Aaron. But it's not like it's a new Batman movie or a Justice League movie, so I was excited, but like within reason for a Black Adam movie. Um, and the trailers I think have been cool, but man, I had a great time with it. And I think what I love about it is it is an unabashed, unapologetic, big, bombastic comic book movie. It knows what it is. It delivers what it promises. It is not ashamed. It wears its comic bookiness on its sleeve with pride, and it just wants to give you a good time, which The Rock wants to give us all a good time, and I appreciate him for it. And that's what it delivered. I had such a good time with it. I think that, to your point, Aaron, and I have seen this out there, like, it's not super deep, but I think the story is fine. But man, it's like a roller coaster ride, and I loved it. I was super into it. I think that it has some of the, and I don't say this lightly, some of the best superhero action I've ever seen in a movie. I think the effects were outstanding, and I think the action was outstanding. And I got to give a huge amount of credit to the fact that they left a lot out of the marketing. And I'm really grateful for that, because I felt like, certainly there were sequences where I was like, oh, yeah, I've seen parts of the sequence in the trailer. But there was a lot of stuff that was not at all in the trailer or even hinted in the trailer. So they were holding quite a bit back, and it made the viewing experience so much better because of it. Yeah, it's nonstop. It's fun. There is just enough character work and emotion in there to still give you something to hold on to. So it's not like it's a empty experience, but it's also, again, not super deep. It's enough to take you on this thrill ride, and I had an amazing time with it. I also got to give a shout out to Lauren Belf, who did the score. I don't know this name. I'm not familiar with this composer. I'm going to click to see if Lauren Belf is male or female, because I can't even tell by the name. But I love the score. I thought the score was amazing, and I immediately downloaded it, and I can't wait to listen to it as soon as spooky season's over, once I moved on from all my Halloween music. But there were moments in the score where, when Black Adam showed up and when the Justice Society showed up and over the ending credits, where I was like, man, I'm digging this. Okay, Lauren Belf is male, so that's good to know. Oh, and he did the Lego Batman movie.
Oh, well, there you go.
And apparently was part of the team who worked on The Dark Knight.
Huh.
So I'll be damned. Look at that. Interesting. So maybe he's one of Hans Zimmer's collaborators or something. So yeah. Oh, that's interesting. But I really enjoyed the score. So yeah, I just thought it was just like a really fun, entertaining, exciting, action-packed comic book movie. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. Like, that's what I signed up for. That's what I got. And I walked out very satisfied.
There's another brand that's pretty much all they do and get praised for it. So I'm not sure where all the hate's coming from this movie. I can tell you that. It was a great action-packed thrill ride of a comic book movie.
Absolutely. And and you all know this listening to this podcast, is I love comic book movies that feel like comic book movies, that embrace being comic book movies, and that they want to deliver that experience. It's why I love Aquaman so much. And I've heard people compare this to Aquaman, is like in the way that it just fully embraces what it is. I still think Aquaman's better, because I do think Aquaman has a little more substance than this does, but it's the same sort of idea of like, they embrace the world. They're not embarrassed of it, and they want to immerse you in that world and bring it to life, and this does that too. And so I loved that about it. It's not a spoiler, I loved that, like, and this is such a small thing and it's a nerdy thing, but like, I loved it, like, Hawkman had his logo everywhere.
Yes.
Like on the ship, there's like the Hawkman logo on the chair, and on the door, there's the Hawkman logo. And I'm like, yeah, just like it would be in a comic book. That's amazing. I love it. And it's nerdy and it's small, but I was like, yeah, heck yeah. This Hawkman is committed to being Hawkman, and he is branded just like Batman brands, and I'm into it.
Yeah.
But I will agree with you. Like, I think Dwayne Johnson is great as Black Adam. I do think that they threaded the needle pretty well in keeping him villainous enough, but at the same time, you can still root for him, which was a tricky thing. And I think that they did find the right balance. I do think that by the end, it maybe leans a little too hard on the heroic side, but it's his movie. It's fine. I love the JSA. I agree that I do think Hawkman and Dr. Fate are the standouts, but that's because they are given the most to do. But I liked Cyclone and Atom Smasher too. They are supporting characters, and they still had some really cool moments. And I am surprised, but I liked the civilians.
Yeah.
Like, I actually liked them. I was entertained by them, because it's not just superheroes. Obviously, you've got to have some normal people in your superhero movie. And the normal people were really good. They were really likable. I have some nits to pick, which we'll get into as spoilers, some things that weren't quite perfect, but there were some nice surprises. There were some nice connections to the DC universe. As far as Black Adam and the JSA goes, I felt fully satisfied. And as I said before, I think the superhero action in this movie is second to none.
Yeah, No, absolutely agree.
It's like I said online. I was talking to someone online, and I said to him like, "Okay, I'm happy to eat crow with this film," because when I was talking, like when I previously mentioned about The Rock and how he hyped it up, when I ended up after watching the film, I'm like, you know what, he was right. He sold
Yeah.
everything he said when he was hyping it up. You know, the stuff that I was like, look, I'm going to dismiss you to a certain extent because you hype everything up. But when I walked out, I'm like, he was 100% correct in everything he was
Eh,
selling with this
I
film.
don't know. I don't know about the hierarchy changing, but
Okay, yeah,
Well,
well,
I mean, that all depends on what happens next. But I think he's certainly the most powerful character in the movie.
that's for sure. Yes.
Like without a doubt. So I get what he's going for. I get it. It's fine. I'll allow it.
It's worth
Um,
mentioning too, just still remaining spoiler free. The humor in this movie, I think, really worked, and where the humor came from, I wasn't, not all of it, but where like a big chunk of the humor came from, I wasn't actually expecting it.
yeah. I'm surprised there was as much humor as there was because we certainly didn't see that in the trailers. Um, but I thought it was just enough. And again, for a movie like this, which is a 4 quadrant blockbuster, it's action, it's humor, it's entertainment. It's 100% entertainment. That's what it's made for. You need some humor, and I think that it was done just right. Obviously some of it I laughed at more than others, but none of it bugged me. I never had an issue with any of it.
No, like none of it was eye rolling.
No, exactly. Um, so yeah, I mean, and like I said earlier, there were certainly sequences where I was like, oh, they really heavily featured this sequence, and most of it's from the first half of the movie in the trailers. So as the movie progressed, we started getting more and more content and more moments that we hadn't seen in the trailers. And I just feel like more movies need to do that. Because too many times at this point you're in a movie and you're checking things off in your brain of like, oh, we saw that, we saw that, we saw that, we saw that. And this, I felt like they were very smart in giving us, basically, they gave us moments from the first two big action scenes.
Yeah,
And
pretty
then
much.
in the second half, I mean, yeah, there were a couple little bits here and there, but for the most part, the stuff in the second half was pretty much all new, which I love that.
I was actually
Yeah.
quite surprised with the actual. There was a scene from the trailer which they featured heavily in majority of the few trailers that did come out. That wasn't even in the movie altogether. It was the one where Black Adam's flying next to the aircraft. So and the pilot tells him to like land or whatever, and he ends up
Oh,
smashing the
you're
wing.
right.
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
not even in the
Hmm.
movie. And I thought every time I think of it, I'm like, that's a pretty expensive scene to cut out. But hey, I'm not Hollywood, so what do I know about budget?
Interesting. You know what's funny is I did wonder. I'm like, oh, I mean, but there was so much in the movie. I was like, oh, I just don't remember seeing it. But I am gonna go again. And when I go again, I need to pay attention because yeah, I guess you're right. I guess it is missing, or some of it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the scene with the helicopters, but yeah, the scene with the two like the fighter jets, it's, yeah, I don't remember it being in there at all.
Yep.
Interesting.
There's one for you guys.
All right, great. So yeah, we all had a great time, that's great to hear. And again, I think that it's the movie that The Rock has been hyping up. It's the movie that he has promised, and I just think it's an entertaining, crowd pleasing comic book movie, and I enjoyed that. So let's get over the spoiler wall. Most people have already seen it, I'm sure, but spoiler warning is out there. We are going to speak freely in just a second, so you have been warned to go check out Black Adam. Have a good time, man. Get yourself a big popcorn and just sit back and go for the ride, because that's how it felt to me, and it was awesome. But now we're going to speak freely with spoilers in 3, 2, 1.
I'm not sure where to start.
Here, I'll start somewhere because it is something I really, really liked, and also is one of my nitpicks.
Oh, okay.
And that is, I really loved how we got pieces of Black Adam's backstory throughout the film.
Hmm.
Like, we got it as a prologue, and we got the prologue essentially of how these people tell the story of the savior, or the champion, I think they call them, the
Yeah, the
champion.
champion.
Um, it was essentially the version of the champion story that they all told each other. That's the version that has been passed down. And then as the movie progresses, we learn that there is more to that story, because then we learn about how that power got stripped away from Black Adam and how he got trapped. And then we learn right at the beginning of the third act, Black Adam saying, "Oh, this is the real story." And I thought that was really, really good. I actually really enjoyed that because we got more information every time and the picture started to come together. And to your point, Brendan, they really did make it clear of like, oh no, this is not some hero who's been lying in waiting. This is someone who used the power irresponsibly and who had to get trapped.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that. And I loved the twist on who he was that was revealed when he's talking to Hawkman. And I thought that was so great because, and to me, I thought it was very effective of like, oh no, this is the story you've heard. This is the true. I wasn't the hero. I wasn't the one who was chosen. My son was chosen. And my son saved me. And like that reveal, I thought was so great. But here's my nitpick. In the trailer, he kept saying, "My son died so I could live." Like, and I was like, why did you? Because it's such an important reveal in the film. Don't say that in the trailer because even so, I was still kind of fooled by the movie where I was like, that's I thought he said something about his son. I must have missed something or whatever. And then when the real reveal happens, which again I really liked, I was like, oh, got it. So just don't say it in the trailer then, because otherwise that's such a great moment.
You know, you're absolutely right, but I'd forgotten about that.
Well, that's good. That's good. It's better that way. Yeah.
But no, like, yeah, it really worked. And the fact too that the statue, I mean, obviously it's thousands of years old, but the statue just has enough rock-like features for you to think it's the Rock.
Yeah.
Pun
Yeah.
intended.
Well, yeah, exactly. I was thinking that. Yeah, so you sort of, you go with it, but then, yeah, the twist was like, the part that I really liked about it, just in terms of the universe, was it very much felt like it was, you know, a sister movie to Shazam.
Yes. Thank you for saying that because
which I liked, because none of that was in the marketing as well.
Yeah.
And that's what had me concerned, is it's like, this guy is Shazam's Joker. Like, you're not working the Shazam mythology really into any of the marketing for this film. And it's very much there, and not just in terms of, you know, seeing the wizard and the Rock of Eternity and things like that, you know, in the prologue and stuff. The fact that I can't remember the kid's name in it, the main kid, and this is something that was very much part of Shazam, is that these superheroes are part of the universe, but they're not only heroes in the universe, they're heroes in the sense that they are for us. There's comic books about them. They're on t-shirts. They're on posters. There's merchandise. Like, yeah, like, and that was something I'd only ever seen in Shazam. And, you know, the opening scene in sort of like, you know, today in terms of the movie in present day is the kid's bedroom. And it was like my room as a kid. Like, it's just plastered with superhero posters. And I'm like, this is actually kind of cool. Like, because if superheroes were a real thing, kids would look up to them and like they do in our world when they're not real. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's really, really cool.
Like sports stars, right?
Yeah.
Like sports stars are real human beings, but because they're famous and they're popular, they have all this merchandise. That's what would happen with superheroes in real life. And I thought that was so cool too. And you're right, like it's something that was in Shazam and it's here where yes, all of these heroes exist in the quote unquote real world, but because of that, there are comic books and there are posters and there are toys. And this kid, and the character's name was Aman, I think. Yeah, Aman.
Yes.
Him being obsessed with superheroes and having them all up in his room, yeah, like you said, felt very real to me because that's how our rooms looked.
And I laughed out loud in the cinema, and I love that it kept showing up sort of in background shots and everything. The image of the Superman poster with the head blown off.
Yeah,
because, you know, headless Superman has been a thing for a couple of years now, and they kind of they lent into it, and they obviously did that. They would have had to have done that, not really knowing, because from what I can gather, I mean, I don't want to dive into it straight away, but that post-credit scene was shot recently. Whereas, yeah, they do the headless Superman thing quite early in the movie, and like I said, they don't. It keeps showing up in several shots in the film, and each time it sort of gave me a bit of a chuckle. It was a bit of a meta joke,
Yeah,
which
yeah, for
worked really
sure.
well.
For sure. I will say that, yeah, like from the moment that the Wizard Shazam showed up and showed us, and it was during the prologue, and showed us how Black Adam, well, how we thought Black Adam got his powers, or Teth Adam. Um, I just was like, I just went, nice. Because you're right. Like, it did feel like they were trying to distance this movie from Shazam. And for those of us who are fans and we want them to connect, and we know that at a certain point, Black Adam and Shazam are going to meet, to see them draw such a deliberate and straight line between the two films made
Oh
me feel
yeah,
so much
they led
better.
into it, which was great. And just the word Shazam is a huge.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of the film and the plot.
Yeah, absolutely. So I loved, and that was what I was talking about when I said there were some great connections to the rest of the DC universe. I love that you're right. This does now feel like a companion to Shazam, as it should.
Yeah, for sure. So that was a real big takeaway for me, which made me very happy.
Yeah, that was one big surprise for me as well. I wasn't as stupid as this sounds. I wasn't expecting it when I went into the cinema.
Well, we at this point we'd kind of forgotten, I feel like, because they did not imply it was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. The marketing side of it, I was just like, okay, so how are they going to tell this? And then when Damon rocks up and all the wizards, I'm like, oh my god, that's right. I forgot where he actually comes from. And to your part about Amon, he reminded. This is where it kind of like mirrors with Shazam. He reminded me a lot of Freddy, because Freddy in Shazam, because Freddy was the same thing, big superhero nerd, and he's trying to guide the hero throughout the story of how he should be and how he should act and all this kind of stuff, and which I loved. It's like, oh, it's a nice little.
So I will say this: I agree with you, but it's another one of my nitpicks. Is I felt he was too Freddy.
Oh, right.
Like I loved the actor. His name is Bodhi Sabangui. I thought he was great. Like, he was adorable. He was very likable. He wasn't annoying. Like, I really liked him. But when he's like, "Oh, you can be a superhero. You can do this, and you can do it. You can have a catchphrase," and I was like, it just, to me, it just felt a little too close to Freddy from Shazam, where I was like, you kind of want them to feel a little different. I got over it, but that again was one of those things where I was like, oh, like, it doesn't have to be too similar.
I was kind of like the whole. I was probably more like, oh, he reminds me of Freddy. I like Freddy.
I like Freddy too, and I miss him. But here's the thing: is I liked the character of Amon, because because as we learn later about Black Adam and his regrets and his relationship with his son, you understand why he would feel the need to protect Amon.
Yes.
Yeah. And I appreciated that. So I actually, again, I liked the character and I liked the actor. I just wish that it hadn't been so similar to Freddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? Go, Brandon.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say with Amon, I like Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, Andy, but I also like when they how they kind of intertwined. He was sort of like the heartbeat of Kahndaq kind of thing. Like, he was the one that was trying to preserve its history and preserve his city and the way it was meant to be, and trying to bring it back to its history and to its roots and all that kind of stuff. Like, part of it. I mean, there was other people obviously playing that role as well, but I like that he was sort of like the vessel that was telling that side of it as well. So, I mean, that was the other side of his character that I really enjoyed.
Yeah. Well, and I love that he was a kid and he used that to distract the authorities, to help his mom get through certain checkpoints. Like, I appreciate that he was like an active participant in what she was up to. And I really liked her too. Again, like, I like the civilians. I haven't liked the brother. And I'm sure, I feel like when it comes to people complaining about the humor, it's probably about that character, but I liked him too. But I liked that Amon was an active participant in trying to make Kahndaq better. And then you're right, very much mirrors the idealistic son of Black Adam, who felt, well, if no one else will be this hero, I will. And I liked that aspect of his character a lot.
Yeah, I'm with you guys.
Well,
you said it all. I can't really add to it.
real quick, since we're talking about connections again, the Shazam connection was great. We already knew about Amanda Waller, but it still makes me happy. But I love that, towards the end, Black Adam actually surrenders himself, and they take him to the secret prison under the water. For just a second, I thought maybe Aquaman would show up because we were underwater.
It had that feeling, didn't it?
Right? Yeah, like it's just enough. But I was like, I feel like I would have heard about it, like,
Yeah.
but uh, but then old girl from Peacemaker showing up, which was really fun
Hardcore.
too.
Hardcore.
Yeah, Harcourt. Yeah. I was like, oh, look at her. All right, that's fun. So like again, just those little connections I was really happy with.
That was a nice surprise. I do think I'd heard about that somewhere, but I'd
Oh,
forgotten.
really?
Yeah, but I'd forgotten. And when she showed up, I wasn't surprised, but I was more like, "Oh, that's right." But no, that was another little tie into the universe, which was nice.
Yeah, it was fun. And then you were talking about Amon's room, him being a big superhero fan. What about the fight between Hawkman and Black Adam? And I will say, like, I loved their rivalry. I loved their relationship.
Yes.
I loved their back and forth. I thought it was great. Aldous Hodge, I mean, I loved him in Invisible Man. I've been behind his casting, but he owns the screen as Hawkman. He's so commanding, and I love that he is the like take no prisoners, all business. Let's get it done. Like I thought his character was great, but I loved he and Black Adam just constantly at each other's throats, and then they have that fight in Amon's room where, as they're fighting, they just are destroying every other superhero's merch.
Yes. Very deliberate.
Yeah, which I thought was very funny.
Like
But then again, the
rocks
little
just
kid, the
coming
little kid
through the
inside me
studio
was
logo.
like, "Oh, all of his stuff, like it's his room."
Yeah, I had that feeling too, actually.
When you're sitting there going, who are they missing? Okay, they've done Superman, they've destroyed him, they've destroyed Aquaman. How are they going to destroy Batman? It's like
Yeah,
ticking them off as I'm going along.
Yep. But yeah, I again, I loved how set it was in the DC universe, and I will also say I appreciated how diverse the movie was. Because you rarely get a movie like this that's like set in the Middle East
Hmm.
that isn't about like terrorism or wars and stuff like. I mean, there's certainly an element of that to this, but like to have the main cast be Middle Eastern is pretty rare in a big Hollywood blockbuster, and I appreciated that. And again, I really liked all the actors.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it wasn't about war and stuff, but it was about a nation being oppressed for a very,
Yes,
very
right,
long
right.
time. And the part that we haven't mentioned yet that made my ears prick up very, very early on is the people responsible for the oppression is Intergang.
Yeah, yeah, which was great. I thought that was awesome.
I was like, oh, like kind of leant forward in my seat. I'm like, oh, Intergang's part of this. Okay, you've got my attention.
For sure. But no, you're right. And I think one of my favorite things, just story wise, and again, that's why I think there are some really nice story touch points, even if, you know, the movie's more about just giving you a good time. But like when the Justice Society shows up to neutralize Black Adam, and Adriana is the name of the woman who sort of, I guess you'd call her kind of the rebellion or something. Like she's doing all these things to try and free her country, but when she goes, we have been under occupation by Intergang for how long, and we have not seen you guys. And the first
Yes.
time you show up is when this guy does. Like this is what's your priority. You're the Justice Society. Where have you been this whole time? And that rings very true, and I really like that.
Yeah, that was a pretty powerful scene, actually.
Yeah, it really was, because they're like, we're here. We're superheroes. We're here to stop
We're here
this
to
guy.
restore peace and everything. And it's just
Yeah,
like, because when he first said that, in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, where have you guys been? Like, you can't really just rock up and say that now. And they call him out for it, and rightfully so.
yeah, for sure. And I really appreciated that element of it.
That was great.
And I love the Justice Society. I love that they're a part of this movie, and I thought it was great how early they show up. Like this is not something. It is truly a Black Adam and Justice Society movie. It's not like they show up in the third act. It's almost immediate. I was surprised that Hawkman was the leader. Like in all the marketing materials, I thought it was going to be Dr. Fate just because it's Pierce Brosnan, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I appreciated that it was Hawkman, and I liked the team. Again, like it's just as far as like their superhero ness, like they all looked great, their powers looked great, the action looked great, and they all had some really great moments. I'll say Adam Smasher, he was more played for comedy because he's inexperienced and he's still figuring it all out. I wish he had gotten a stronger hero moment at the end to kind of pay that off. Um, there was little bits of it throughout, but he was the one I felt like he needed a bigger moment towards the end. But I still really liked them all. And to your point, Hawkman and Doctor Fate, I would have taken a whole movie of them.
Yeah, and Adam Smash is the one I was alluding to in the spoiler-free comments about where some of the humor came from. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
expect that from that character.
right.
But I mean, yeah, it worked for me, the humor that they used with him, or they got from him. Um, yes, the Justice Society were really cool. I'm still, even after seeing the movie, I'm still kind of like puzzled by the choice of the characters they use, though. Like Cyclone and Atom Smasher had people kind of like, comic book people like us going, oh, okay. Like, Stargirl is using more known entities in terms of Justice Society members than this, big blockbuster movie did. But, it kind of worked having two more marquee characters and two characters that are little to, have no sort of, like, I'd never really heard of them before this movie. So
Yeah, I mean, and you do have to wonder like what the rationale was. Is it were they able to go? They kind of looked and like here are the characters that are available for use. Um, Adam Smasher, I am familiar with, so to me, Cyclone is the one I knew the least, but I ended up really loving her too. I thought I thought she was really charming. She was very likable, and I loved how she looked when she was using her powers. I thought it was beautiful. It was like
she
a
was
moving
stunning.
painting.
It looks so
Yeah,
good.
yeah, and again, like the way she used her powers, it was so cool. And we I think in the trailers we only got like one moment of it, and so I thought, oh, she gets her one moment, but no, again, there was so much more of her doing her thing throughout the film, which I really liked, and I liked the chemistry between her and Adam Smasher. Again, them being the newbies, figuring it out. Um, they all played off of each other very well, and I appreciated, even though I didn't expect it, how Doctor Fate was more of the outsider. Like he had more of it, 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Mm.
Um, and there's an amazing scene where Hawkman and Black Adam were like really butting heads again, and he was just sitting in the chair, kind of commenting on it.
That
Wasn't he
had me in
eating?
fits of
He was
laughter. It was
eating,
good.
wasn't he? He's like, here
It
we
was like,
go.
I think they were like eating. He was just having like breath mints or something. I think.
Yeah, yeah. Which I was so amused where he's like, I'm not getting involved in this,
Here
but
we go.
guys, like it was so funny. He was just so nonchalant about it. And he also has the best joke in the movie, which
Which was.
is which is first he says, he explains, oh, that was sarcasm.
Oh
And
yes.
then Black Adam does something, he goes, it was sarcasm. He goes, well, actually, technically you're just lying.
Yes.
I
No,
gotta
Pierce was really, really good in that role. He was fantastic, and I mean, it's a shame we're not going to see more of him because he is the sacrificial lamb
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the film, which again was another twist because the whole movie you were led to believe that Hawkman was going to be the one that wasn't going to survive the film based on Dr. Fate's visions of the future, and he did the old switcheroo.
Hmm.
My only criticism of Dr. Fate is I just wish he wasn't such a Doctor Strange ripoff, guys.
Stop it. I'm disconnecting you from the call. Hold on. No, he was great. And it's one of those things where it's like, yes, I'm bummed he was the sacrificial lamb. But when you look at it logically, it's the one that makes the most sense, right? Like, because there can always be another Dr. Fate. Um,
Yes.
I could see Pierce going, I'm not signing on to 3 movies.
That was the other thing for me. I was just like, yeah, like okay, he's done his superhero movie. He was fantastic in it. I'm not so bummed anymore that he's not the new Alfred. I'm happy with him being in this movie because, yeah, like I said, to me, I think he was the subtle MVP of the film. He was great.
Yeah. But like, you've got Aldous Hodge as Hawkman. He's young, he's hot, he's so like you want him in future movies. Whereas Pierce, no, we were lucky to get him for the one. So again, just from a business perspective, I go, oh, I get why Hawkman lived and Dr. Fate did not.
Mm.
And again, because Dr. Fate can always come back.
That's true.
With another actor.
I also love the back and forward between Hawkman and Atom Smasher.
Oh, that was great. You and me.
Like, you and me.
Yeah, you and me.
Man, Aldous Hodge's eyes, when he's in the mask, or I guess even when he's not, but particularly when he's in the mask, like, his eyes are just, they're penetrating. They're so, like, you don't want to F with this guy, and it's all in the eyes.
Yeah, he's so intense, and he's such a badass. And Hawkman, like, and I love Hawkman, and I was excited Hawkman was part of this, but I did not expect Hawkman to be such a, like, to have so much gravitas about him, and Aldous Hodge brought that. And sometimes it's less fun to be the serious one, the stick in the mud, but he owns it and is able to get his own little moments of humor by continuing to be the serious one, which I loved.
Yeah, he's the straight man.
Yeah, and he's really good at it. So I was really happy with that.
Yeah.
Was anyone upset that Henry Winkler didn't suit up?
I know. There's always the sequel. What a funny and random cameo.
Tell me, because I never really watched Happy Days. I can remember watching it a little bit with Mum and Dad when I was a kid, but I can't really remember the show properly. Was there a Happy Days gag in there when he said about the costume being vintage? Was that something that he used to say about his jacket in Happy Days as the Fonz?
Not that I remember, but I am not a Happy Days expert.
It's sort of something triggered in my brain that I thought in the show he'd sort of, hands off the jacket, it's a vintage.
Oh, maybe. You know who would know?
Michael Lyons.
Michael Lyons would know, yeah.
But then, because he says, he's like, it's a vintage about the costume. I was like, was that a Happy Days joke? And if it
is,
was,
I missed it.
And if it was,
it plays off
me,
later
it
as
worked.
well. Yeah, it plays off later as well. I think it's when Cyclone talks to Atom Smasher, and he's like, she comments on in his look or something. I think it's vintage, or something like that. So yeah, it pays off again down the line.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, that was so random, but I was amused.
I started laughing straight away. I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, just of all the people, like, I just wonder why. I want to ask why. Like, who was it who went, well, we need to have someone be the original Atom Smasher. I've got it, Henry Winkler. And I'm here for it. I just want to hear the rationale. Is it like, is The Rock go, I just always wanted to work with the Fonz, so I called him. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe The Rock was a big Happy Days fan.
That's a question. When you get him on, you can ask him.
Okay, yes, I will be sure to do that. But yeah, I thought that was a lot of fun. But yeah, like the Justice Society, like I appreciated their dynamic. I liked, again, I liked Hawkman's mansion, and I liked the ship, and I don't know, like all of that was just good superhero-y fun, and the fact that they were in it for the whole time and that they were so integral to the plot, like I felt I felt satisfied.
Yeah, no, they were very good. I really did.
I will say this is another one of my nitpicks. Sorry, just because we're talking about the Justice Society, is I love the moment where Dr. Fate sacrifices himself to save his friend Hawkman. It just made me wish we had a little more of their relationship prior to that. There's some of it, but I just felt like we could have gone a little bit deeper to see how close they were, so that way that moment would just be a little more emotionally resonant. To me, I felt like there was a little bit of a missing piece, a little bit of extra character work between Hawkman and Dr. Fate to really make that moment even bigger.
Yeah,
I get it
with the story. Yeah, because there was so much to try and pack into this movie. But that's probably a good thing too, Andy. That means you really did enjoy. You wanted more from him.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised if that was shot but cut out, because, as we said, the movie is pretty nonstop. It flies by, and again, the action is outstanding, but they have some quieter moments. But like, I feel like there was in order to get it right around that 2 hour mark, I would not be shocked if they cut out some character work.
Yeah. Well, they cut out. What was it? Dwayne was talking about how they cut out like 10 kills because they're too graphic or something like that.
Oh, I did see something about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there was definitely stuff that's left on the cutting room floor, which hopefully gets released when it comes to digital. Will be nice.
Yeah, that would be
I
nice.
want more. I want more.
I do too. Yeah.
That just made me think of something, and it's one of the criticisms I've seen in, just a few tweets and a few reviews and stuff of the movie is they're like it's 2 hours of The Rock showing how much fun murder can be, and it's like the guy's not, again, the guy's not Superman. He's supposed to be a villain. Like, what did you want him to do? Like, come and just like cuddle everyone? Like,
that's the whole point of the movie. That's why the Justice Society are there,
right? Like, I don't get the criticism.
Yeah, that's why they're there, to stop him, because he is not a hero and he is crossing a line constantly. Hence why Hawkman unequivocally has decided he needs to be stopped.
Mm-hmm. Yes, actually, that just reminded me of another scene too when he has the two Inti-gang members, like up in the sky, and he drops both of them, and then like, they come back down. He's like, "No one died. I got the information I needed. I did it your way." And Pierce Brosnan is like, "He's got a point."
Yeah.
God, I love the one where he throws the dude, and Dr. Fate appears. Like, I need to ask him a question, and he's like, "He's dead, isn't he?"
Yeah, he didn't make it.
He didn't make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On a recent episode, I think it was the last episode, someone wrote in and said, like, who is a comic book character that you have fun watching kill? And we talked about the Punisher and we talked about some other stuff. I'd put this right up there with them, because you can do that with a character with Black Adam, where mostly he's killing bad guys. So that's why, like, you don't feel too bad, but he's still just not afraid to kill them because he's Black Adam. And it's funny. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not saying murder is funny, but in the context of the story, I was entertained by it.
What did you think of, and it felt, pardon me, it felt very Wonder Woman to me, in that you don't see the main villain, quote unquote, of the movie essentially until the third act. Like the last battle scene is when the villain really comes into play. It's funny, the villain, like, the movie moves along so much without there being that bad guy. Like, it's kind of chasing the MacGuffin more than the actual villain himself.
Mm-hmm.
And the villain's kind of the most forgettable part of the movie. And and that's not really a bad thing either, because I think the rest of the movie's so entertaining, following this group of heroes and civilians on their journey, that yeah, you're like, the villain of the piece seems to kind of be just checking that box so you can have that big last battle of a superhero movie.
Well, I mean, the character of Ishmael is present throughout. But I feel like I don't want to spend any more time with him than we do. He is present enough that it's obvious this is our villain, right? And, from the moment he shows up, and I went and saw this with Preston Willis, and he shows up, and as soon as he shows up, Preston goes, "Oh, he played Jafar in the Aladdin remake."
Oh, shit.
And then like,
yeah.
Penny drops.
And then 1 minute later, he betrays them, and I was like, "See, you don't freaking trust Jafar. He was always up to no good." But like, as far as him being present, like, I never felt shortchanged by it. And I will say this: once he transforms at the end and becomes Sabak, I thought he was awesome. like what a great, awesome, scary design for this demonic villain. I loved it. So, but prior to him finally emerging as Sabak, there's so much else going on between Black Adam and the JSA and our normal people, right? And Inner Gang. Like, I feel like Ishmael's in it enough to drive the plot along, but I never felt like there should be more of him, personally.
And that's why I made the comparison to Wonder Woman, because Ares is present through the whole film, but Ares the person isn't present until that final battle.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of that's where it very much felt like Wonder Woman to me in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. I
You
feel
didn't,
like
you didn't need the physical villain there for the whole movie to keep the story going. Like he
right.
was in it just enough, and it was his
Yeah.
presence more than anything else.
Yeah. I think so too. I think they used him just enough. And again, once he finally did emerge, I thought he was awesome.
He looks, yeah, the character
He
designs
looked
wicked.
the design's terrific. Yeah, I love it.
He absolutely looked amazing. Yeah, but with that, it's like it was kind of like because it was more of a Black Adam being the villain per se when he comes with the JSA throughout the whole film. Ishmael's just in the background doing his thing, which is you get to the point where you're like, oh, I totally forgot about him. Well, it's like that's right, he's the bad guy, because Dwayne's on his character arc to become who he needs to become. But as per se, like there was that scene where he lands when he's Sabak and it's in the darkness and all you see is the Pentagon in red glowing, and I don't know why, but that scene just sticks with me. I was like, that looked absolutely so good. The CGI in this film was insane. It was insane really how good it was. It was so good. And because unlike another brand, don't want to start a fight, where you see like something like Thor: Love and Thunder, where it's kind of like, you can sit there and nitpick it and all that kind of stuff. Where this one, I was just like, it blew me away how actually good it looked throughout the whole film.
Completely agree. And that's what I was saying at the beginning is like the effects on this are amazing. Like just the way he flies, it looks so real. And like there's the moment where he like is like he's like slowly lowering down the building, and that's when Amon is kind of chasing him down the stairs and talking to him. But even that, it just looks real. And because it looks so real, that just adds so much to the action and to the superpowers and everything. The effects throughout of Black Adam, of Hawkman, of Dr. Fate, of Cyclone, and of Atom Smasher, they all looked great. So at least you see the money that was spent on this on screen.
The part where I noticed it, and I literally had the thought to myself whilst watching the movie, Black Adam, even if it's a quiet scene, he's very rarely standing on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
He's usually hovering or hovering and floating. And that was a nice touch because he is this godlike being. He's just slightly elevated above everybody else. And it's obviously by choice because it'd be so much easier to just have him standing in the scene. But no, like he's hovering, and it was really cool. Like it was a nice touch. Even Superman doesn't do that.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Along those lines, I love that he gets a suit upgrade at the end.
Oh, didn't the second suit look awesome?
It was perfect. It was so good. And I love that we didn't know that, right? Like we've seen the suit, we've seen the cloak, and he looked great already. And we're like, yeah, of course, it looks like Black Adam. But I certainly noticed that like the thunderbolt on his chest was all dirtied up and everything. But I was like, okay, that's what they're just doing to make it a little more gritty or whatever. And then to contrast that with what he shows up at the end in like full on Black Adam regalia with the belt and the cuffs and then the big bold thunderbolt. He looked amazing.
The cape.
Yeah, the cape. Exactly. Like, yeah, he looked amazing. And I thought that was such a cool touch.
Yeah, no, it was wicked. And it didn't really, like it didn't need to be explained. Like you just knew that, well, I guess because he hadn't really turned back into his human form and then Teth Adam for thousands of years, I guess. So it would make sense that when he does it for that first time in 5,000 years, the suit is fresh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's the only thing. If I was to do a nitpick, and it's not really a nitpick, it's probably more The Rock's fault more than anything, because I'm used to him looking like a man mountain, and like so when he went to slave form, I was like, that looks odd. I don't know. There's a part of me where I'm sitting back on.
I mean,
they didn't de-age him; right. They debulked him.
Yeah, because I'm used to being so big, but when he looked so thin, I'm like, that looks weird. That just doesn't. Look
does, but I think the effect was really well done.
It was. It just.
But you're right.
It just looked like
it's jarring because we're just used to him being massive.
Yeah. It's just like
totally.
Weird. It just looks so weird. That's yeah.
Oh, and since we were just talking about it, one of the most badass ways to defeat a villain in a superhero movie, he literally tears Sabak in half.
Yes.
That I laughed out loud in a good way, where I just was like, amazing, like good for you. That's awesome. You do not see that in a superhero movie.
If anyone deserved it.
Exactly. Like, oh, good. He doesn't like just fall to his death. Like he actually just gets torn in half by Black
Yeah,
Adam.
I thought the whole thing he was trying to pull the crown off of him.
That's what I was trying. Yeah, yeah.
That's
I
what
thought he was trying to pull his
do.
horns or something. Yeah.
And then yeah, like it was like, oh shit, okay, you're just gonna rip this guy in half. Fair enough.
I didn't.
That's amazing.
I didn't see. Well, I was kind of maybe I was just in the moment with the film, but I didn't notice. I didn't the whole Ishmael turn of him being a bloodline. I was like, oh shit. I did not. I did not see that coming. I was just like,
I saw
shit,
that because it was clearly the same actor playing both roles.
Oh, I didn't even notice until the end when they did the side by side. Then I went,
oh really? I was
yeah,
under that
I didn't
from
notice.
the start. Yeah,
I must have been just
Yeah.
in the moment. I don't know. I must have been enjoying myself too much in my popcorn. I'm like, oh shit! I didn't see that coming at all.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's like I knew that like that kid was going to be Black Adam because like The Rock was just playing that little kid. He has range.
yeah,
It was really good. It was
see
really good.
that took me out as well because he wasn't as bulky as a kid.
Well, but I will say again, I was fooled at the beginning of like believing that kid became Black Adam because of Shazam. Because like Shazam is a kid that becomes a grown man. I was like, oh, so it's the same thing. Oh, interesting. And then of course we find out later that's not the case. But I thought that was very clever, a clever way to like trick me.
With the when he first turns into his Shazam-y person, when he arrives in, I don't know if you guys noticed this or not, when he arrives in his room in the shadowing, did you notice the shadowing on him? It kind of felt like the original, sort of like the comic book version of Black Adam, where he had the hairline and everything by the shadows on his head and stuff like that.
I didn't notice.
When you see it the second time, that's the one thing that stood out to me. I was like, oh, is he going to actually have the actual proper hairline? Because that'd be pretty cool. Because that was one of the nitpicks that most people have. Even myself was like, oh, you know, The Rock doesn't look like Black Adam, and I'll put my hand up. I'm like, no, he doesn't look like Black Adam, like in the sense of the hairline and the ears. But I'm like, if they move that from the sun, and then The Rock, obviously turns out to be whoever he is, would have been a nice touch. But yeah, but when some of the shadowing of the sun, when he was like, oh, maybe it's just me, maybe it's just something I saw, I don't know, but yeah, that's one thing that's
interesting. I'll have to look for that next time.
That really never bothered me because let's be honest, isn't the whole point this movie exists is because The Rock kind of looks like Black Adam?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, that's where the whole thing started nearly 15 years ago or something.
Yeah.
Like someone pointed out that The Rock looked like Black Adam, and all of a sudden The Rock was the biggest Black Adam fan in the world and was going to play the character. Like,
yeah, no, I exactly, like I never had an issue with that because I'm like, he pretty much just looks like Black Adam, just without hair and without pointy ears. But I mean, there are far more egregious issues with that in other movies where I'm like, no, he looks like Black Adam. I'm good with it.
Well, that's part of the way.
Yeah.
That's part of where I felt like I'm happy to talk about my fault, like my faults when it came to this movie. Like, yeah, one of the things leading into it was The Rock, and I'm like, I was one of those people who was like, The Rock, he just looks like The Rock in cosplay. I don't know, I wish he put a bit more effort in what I was seeing in the trailer. Why is he talking American? I was one of those people. And then when I actually sat down, I'm happy to put my hand up. So when I sat down in the actual cinema, and like I really do appreciate, and when I try to explain it to people with The Rock, is that obviously if you give The Rock a full-on accent, it's going to look weird. And it's got to sound weird, sorry, and it's going to probably take people out of it. Where I think with this film, what they did beautifully was find his range to the best of his ability, giving him that kind of like broken kind of English to a certain extent when he obviously when he comes back, which I really do appreciate. That level of putting it, at least he's doing something different. And as for the look, it didn't bother me. After me being the angry fanboy prior, once it started, I was like, I don't care anymore. This is amazing. I'm having a great time. So it didn't, and in the end, it didn't bother me at all. So, and I thought, I thought The Rock did
Yeah.
a really good job for someone that was going into it, and he wasn't. I was more. Oh, I can't wait to see the JSA. It's going to be more about the JSA for me, but The Rock did actually come in and sell it for me really, really well. And yeah, like I said before, I'm happy to eat crow when it comes to how I felt beforehand and how I felt afterwards watching this movie.
Yeah. I want to talk about the ending real quick. First of all, when he decides, oh, he's going to stay and they need a protector and everything, I was like, okay, that's cool. And then he sits in the throne, which is like a very iconic image of Black Adam in the throne. I was like, oh, nice. Like, because again, much like you, Brendan, I was like, they have to nudge him towards villainy because at a certain point he's going to have to fight Shazam. Like, that's the way it's got to go.
Yep.
And so when he takes that throne, I was like, well, yeah, this is where he goes from being a protector of Kahndaq and becomes the ruler, like sort of more of a monarch figure. And maybe this is step one as he sits on the throne. And I was like, oh, nice. And then when he crushed the throne, he's like, they don't need a king. And I was like, that was where I was like, oh no, like, don't be too heroic. You're still, you still got to be villainous at a certain point. So that was the moment when I said it maybe tips a little too far into the heroic by the end. It was that moment where I was like, no, like leaving him on the throne, I think would have been a great way to end it. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we need to talk about it at some point, but I think I was satisfied with how it ended in terms of what Wallace says to him. It's like, okay, you're this country's protector, but the second you leave its borders, like, it's on. Like, you stay here, otherwise we're coming for you. And I liked that because it does allow him to stay in play in terms of there's this superpower being in the world, but also it contains him to a point.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, we'll talk about that in just a second. But there's one other thing I want to talk about is throughout the movie, his name is Teth Adam, and they refer to it and they say it's a little old fashioned. We got to change it. And so at the very end of the movie, he's like, maybe you don't call me Teth Adam, maybe it is old fashioned. And they're like, well, what should we call you? And then it cuts to black, and we never find out what we're supposed to call him. Which, like, how can you do that? Like, we just watched 2 hours. You're not going to tell me what to call you?
I don't know. I liked it because it's something we haven't mentioned. The whole catchphrase through the whole movie.
Brendan, that was sarcasm.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, I
stupid.
There it is.
I knew you were joking, but it just made me think of the whole...
I'm content now.
just that was just for you, Aaron. But no, like when it cut to black and then the big Black Adam title came up, I was like,
that was awesome.
Oh yeah, I was like badass. But then I turned to Catherine, I was like, but what do we call him? I'm confused.
the catchphrase through the movie is something we haven't discussed. Like, tell him Man in Black sent you.
Oh yeah, how he keeps getting he keeps killing them first.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he finally gets it at the end, which is good. He learns.
That's a good payoff.
Oh, and I loved kind of the needle drop at the start of the movie too. With, is it the doors painted black?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because when
the
score
Stones, I think it's the Stones.
Is it the Stones?
I think it is. I think you're right. Stones.
People are screaming at us. But
You.
Yeah, because when that first sort of present day battle is happening, he's just laying waste to like all the helicopters and stuff. Part of the score, I'm like, it kind of alluded to Paint It Black. I'm like, is that are they sort of sampling Paint It Black? And then when the song itself comes in, I was like, oh, that was a cool needle drop.
Yeah, it was. And that, honestly, just speaking of that whole sequence, oh my God. Like, number one, again, like, they don't make us wait long for the action to start. And then this is the big Black Adam emergence. And boy, do they deliver just from the go. Like, he shows up and that sequence is so impressive and it is long. There is a lot and it is so good. And that's where I was like, damn, like, all right, we're all in right from the beginning. And I appreciated that. I was like, this is amazing.
I know we talked about the sarcasm. Yeah, there was actually. I know we talked about the sarcasm thing before, and kind of what led to it is I love like he never uses a door. Like, he just comes through every wall, which I
Well,
thought was
yeah, and
hilarious.
that was
That
the.
was the sarcasm thing.
I guess you didn't have doors in your time. Yes, we did. It's how we got into rooms. Yeah, I know that was sarcasm. But
I
yeah,
just
no,
love how it keeps coming through the wall, and it's an ongoing thing. And every time it worked every time. They didn't overplay it. I didn't think anyway.
yeah.
God, I felt sorry for her apartment. Seriously. The apartment she's
Me
going to go back to,
too.
there's nothing
Just
left of
like
it.
a Mon's poor room. I was like, they still have to live somewhere after this movie's over.
They're all in the little mystery machine van.
So yeah,
The
it was a
electrician.
little mystery machine, wasn't it?
Like the scene
Yeah.
of it, driving along in the desert. I'm like that. Like the color scheme of it, it looks very much like the mystery machine.
Yeah.
When he's lying there, because he was awake. You fully use electricity. You're an electrician, then you go check.
Yeah. I die by electricity. That was great too. Oh, sorry, real quick before we get to the next thing. We have zombies in this movie.
Yes.
Hell yes. That's great. I was like, can I count this for Scarathon? Does that
I was
count?
going to say Scarathon.
Yeah. Yeah, as soon as those zombies showed up because Sabak was taking his place, I was like, oh, I love it. That's great. Because I also love that, yes, Black Adam and the JSA are doing their thing with Sabak, but the people of Kahndaq start banding together and realizing they have to fight for their own freedom, and giving them the zombies to fight against, I thought was a really cool idea.
Yeah.
Man, if
they looked good too.
If people watch Shazam as part of Cheerathon, you can watch Black Adam as part of Scarathon.
All right, fair enough. Anyway, so after he says, or they say, what should we call you? And it cuts to black, and we get the Black Adam title. At that point, I was like, the movie's over, so I got up and I left.
As did several people in my theater, and I'm just like,
did anything happen? Did I miss anything?
No, not at all.
No? Okay, cool. Well, then we're good. Then I went to the bathroom and we were fine.
You're all good.
So we got a mid-credit sequence. I thought it was going to be post-credits, but we got mid-credits. The end credit sequence again with that music was badass, so I'll just say that too. That did remind me of Aquaman, but in a really good way. And then we get the mid-credit sequence.
The DC universe movies have done since Wonder Woman that I think has worked really well at those credit scenes that almost play like a James Bond title.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they're really cool.
They're great.
I love them.
Although, to be fair, Marvel does that too.
I suppose, yeah.
Not supposed, they do. It's sort of become a thing, but I like it. I'm into it, especially if we're going to sit there and wait for whatever coming next. I love these super stylized and cool animated end credit sequence with the music. And yeah, I always enjoy it, both in Marvel and at DC.
Yeah, that's a good call.
But anyway, so then you're right. We get the moment and we have Black Adam. We have Waller saying, okay, fine, but you stay there as soon as you step out. And I just love the balls on Waller. She's so great. She's such a badass. And I said it before, I'm going to say it again. Viola Davis is just a force of nature, and we are lucky to have her. And she is just the best big screen Amanda Waller. Oh my God. And I love that we keep finding ways to bring her back because she's so good. But anyway, so
badass in that new movie she's got coming out too, just quietly. Is it the Lady King or whatever it is?
Yeah. Yep. And so I love just her being like, listen, Black Adam, you stay put, or I'm coming for you. And I love where he said, there's no one on this planet as powerful as me, or something to that effect, right?
Yeah.
And she goes, I can call someone who's not from this planet. And then we get the triumphant return of Superman. The worst kept secret in the history of movies, but it finally happened. It was glorious. Part of the reason I need to see the movie again, because people in the theater were clapping and cheering, and so I didn't get to hear it as well as I would have liked. But yes, we get Henry Cavill returning as Superman, looking fantastic, looking great in the classic blue and red. I've heard some fans didn't like that suit. No, that suit's great. He looks amazing. Stop it. Just stop it.
You're not going to keep him in the black suit. Like, it's
just
not going to happen.
No. He's Superman, for crying out loud, and he looks amazing, and that suit looked amazing. I'll fight you. And he looked great. So like it was a terrific moment. I'm so glad the audience was into it again. And then when it was over, I was like, how the hell did they keep that a secret? I had no idea this was going to happen. It was amazing.
It's not like The Rock had been marketing it at all.
Yeah. So even though it was the worst kept secret in the world, man, it was still very satisfying. And I loved seeing him back again. And I certainly hope that is good news to come, that we will see him again and again.
I mean, you can't tell me that the scene, like the secret, wasn't leaked as a marketing tool. Like, I'm not going to believe that for a second that it wasn't deliberate.
I've heard people say that. I don't know. Like, I mean, obviously they've been teasing it, but like, do you really want people to see the shitty leaked version? Like, so I don't know if I believe that they leaked it on purpose, but
I don't mean the footage. I mean just the fact that they
Oh,
didn't
yeah,
keep
yeah,
it
yeah.
a secret. That
They
Henry's
certainly
in the
didn't try
movie.
to like, yeah, they certainly didn't try to quell any rumors.
No, oh god, no. I mean, even The Rock, like, he'd never flat out say it, but he was absolutely saying that Henry Cavill was in this movie.
Yeah, yeah. And like, you know, there were the rumors for Comic-Con that didn't come to fruition, but I mean, the Rock has been teasing it forever, and I'm glad that he made it happen. And you know, there's certainly been articles written since then about how he made it happen and how he really pushed for it, and I'm really glad he did. And so yeah, it's wonderful to see Superman back on the big screen, even if it's just for a moment. And there, it is worth mentioning that last week there was a article from the Hollywood Reporter, I think it was, with updates about the DC universe, including this, and including that they are trying to develop another Superman solo film with Henry Cavill. This time, I'm willing to believe it, because guess what? Now he's in a new movie. So I hope to God that is the case, and I hope to God that happens sooner than later, because it's what we've all been asking for 9 years now. And so that's really exciting. And there was a lot of actually very good news in that Hollywood Reporter article that I hope most of it is true. But that, I think, is the most applicable one at the moment. But it seems like Cavill is truly back this time, and I hope to God that means we get a lot more Superman on the big screen.
Yeah, the thing that surprised me so much is, I mean, it was what, a month or so ago that the news we were covering was the fact that what's old mate's name who's taken over Warner Brothers now?
Zaslav?
Zaslav saying how, you know, the plan is to reboot everything and have a more connected universe and stuff like that, which, you know, we said at the time made sense, but was also heartbreaking. This goes against that, and I'm really, really happy. Like it, and the other thing that was worth mentioning, it was in that Hollywood Reporter article, is that Christopher McQuarrie's name is attached, and that makes me very, very happy, because he makes fantastic action movies.
Oh, without a doubt.
What he's done for Mission Impossible is he's taken that from a franchise I could care less about to one of my favorite. Like, the last 3 movies, I've been so pumped for them, and they're the ones that he's taken over on. And he did great work with Henry in the last Mission Impossible movie. Clearly, they have a relationship together. If he can end up directing a Superman movie with Henry Cavill in the lead, holy shit! Like,
yeah.
Oh man.
And I think I agree with you. I love him. But I feel like his style from those past couple Mission Impossible movies, which I agree with you, are both terrific. Is it 2 or 3 at this point? I can't even keep track. But anyway,
he's done the 2, and the third and fourth he's made.
That's yeah. So he did the last 2, and then he's doing the next 2. That's what it is. But his directorial style, I think, could just so seamlessly fit for Superman. And when the word came out last time that they did pitch a Superman movie together when they were working together on Mission Impossible and WB passed, I was so mad, because I was like, how do you have those 2 guys come and pitch you a Superman movie and you say no thank you? How do you do that? Like, you must be insane. And if he is truly attached to this new one, I will celebrate in the streets, because it would just be he is the right guy for the job.
Oh, absolutely.
I
So sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. one thing that I'm loving about this Cavill thing. I mean, you guys know, but I'll let everyone else know that I actually manage a cinema or theatre here in Australia. And one thing I'm actively doing is going into the cinema for that end credit scene, and
Nice.
not for me to watch it, to get the audience's
Bullshit.
response.
Don't lie.
But because like us three, we're intertwined with DC and everything DC. Whatever drops, we find out about it. Where like there's a lot of general audience that shock horror probably don't even know what the hell's going on in the overall sense of it. So I go in there and to see this post credit scene, and when Henry does appear, like I hear in Australia, we're a bit more conservative than what the Americans are, I think, when it comes to the theater experience. But
Oh man, you've seen that opening scene of Scream too. Like we'd never act like that in a cinema.
And that's how we act for every movie. That's literally just every day you go. I mean, like I saw Super Pets and people were throwing knives. It was insane.
Well, they're yelling Superman, and they all start clapping and all that kind of stuff, and I'm just like, oh, I just wished I wish the former powers that be at Warner Brothers would actually go into the cinema and feel that energy and go, look, this is what he means. This is what Henry Cavill meant. Yeah, you might not have thought much of what he did previously within like BVS or whatever their opinions are, but it's like this is what the character means, and this is what Henry Cavill means. That you got kids yelling Superman, you got adults clapping and cheering that he's actually back, and being in Australia for me, like I said, it's to see that in the cinema, it's a pretty big deal. It's like, oh man, like for a lot of people that probably don't even know that he was going to appear at the end. Yeah, it just gives me goosebumps every single time, and I'll continue to do it, Brendan, to go and to watch the audience response. Okay, for my own gratitude, nothing more, nothing less.
I will say this, and sorry, go ahead, Brendan.
There was no clapping and cheering when I saw it yesterday, and I was in a pretty full cinema because the weather was
It's Queensland though. You guys are weird.
the weather was shit. It is a very wet day yesterday, so the cinemas were packed. There was no clapping and cheering, but you could definitely feel the vibe in the room that people were excited. There was talk amongst the patrons of like, oh shit, like, and also like a lot of people like me knew it was coming, so you could feel them like the hype in the room. But yeah, it's definitely there. Yeah. Oh yeah, it was definitely there, but there was no outburst of clapping and cheering, which I was fine with. But yeah, it was still really exciting.
Queenslanders.
Yeah, jeez. I was just gonna say, and it is sort of digging up old issues, but it's worth saying again is I kind of understand why WB was very timid about doing another movie with him, but I also think they missed the point because Man of Steel was divisive, BVS was divisive. That is true. I love both of those movies, but you can't pretend they weren't divisive. But the issue was never Henry Cavill as Superman. The issue was the movies not everyone loved, not him. And I think that they missed that nuance. And that's always been so frustrating is like, no, if you put him in the suit in a different movie that is a little more crowd pleasing, it's going to work. It's not him, but they just learned the wrong lesson, which they're very good at learning the wrong lessons. But that was what's so frustrating for us as fans is like, the issue isn't him. He's, he is a great Superman. And, I would argue he was a great Superman in Man of Steel and in BVS, but I understand that everyone agrees with that. But the issue was never the casting. The issue was those movies, the choices made within those movies didn't work for everyone. So I'm so glad that he gets another chance to prove that. And I think that, the reactions that we're talking about help reinforce that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they gave him the curl.
They did, which I like that too. I mean, it's more subtle. It's not like straight up Christopher Reeve, but it's there.
I don't know, man. They used the Christopher Reeve score. That was a deal breaker for me.
No.
Jesus Christ, people.
We got to be mad. Remember? Got to be
Fuck.
mad.
Like,
You got
we've
to be
been
mad.
screaming for this guy to come back in the role for how many years now? We finally happens, and people are bitching and moaning because it wasn't that they didn't sample the Hans Zimmer score. Give me a effing break.
And like Andy said before, and he's not in the black suit. It's like, come on, man. Like, he could wear a bloody clown suit with an S on it. As long as it's Henry Cavill rocking up, I'll be like, yep, he's back. I'm happy.
You can't tell me that
You know?
people want an entire Henry Cavill Superman movie with him in a black suit just because he wore it at the end of Zack Snyder's
No,
Justice
God,
League.
no, God, no.
That's not
I think I said it
how you
before.
market Superman.
I do not understand certain fans' obsessions with the black suit. I don't get it. He wore it for a couple of issues in the 90s. Like, why are we pretending he should wear it all the time? Like, I don't understand that at all. It makes
No.
no sense to me.
And look, just from an aesthetic point of view, if you're going to have him sharing the screen, all for what, 10, 15 seconds, whatever it is, with another guy named Black Adam in a black suit, like it's not going to work. Like, you need the juxtaposition.
Yep.
No, I mean,
people
yeah, it's
shit me.
I know. It's like I don't want to go down the road, but it is crazy. Like, yeah, we want it. Okay, here it is. No, not like that. I don't want it like that. I want it like
what
this.
Would you prefer,
like,
another headless cameo?
This isn't Burger King. You don't get to have it your way.
Jesus.
I'm so glad that this turned out to be true, and I want to go on record by eating my own crow because leading up to this, I just kept being like, listen, we've been burned before, guys. We've been burned before. I hope it's true, but I'm not counting on it. I'm not holding my breath because it's been a long road waiting for him to come back as Superman, and I'm so glad that it happened. I'm so glad that that's where we are, and I'm really glad to hear that we should be getting more of him. So I'm looking forward to that. I just hope it's going to be quicker than what we've been waiting for over the past 5 years since Justice League.
So Andy, just a question for you, mate, because I know you like to follow this kind of stuff. If we're looking into the future with Black Adam, what kind of box office predictions do you think it needs to hit in order to, greenlight a sequel, or for Warner Brothers to go, yep, because we could see by the fans. If you look at the fan percentage, if we go by Rotten Tomatoes, and I know a lot of people don't like it and, all that kind of stuff, but obviously the fans like it more than the critics. And even on IMDb, the fans are giving it a fairly good rating. But in terms of box office, what's the mark do you think it needs to hit?
So, I mean, according to this, its budget was $195 million, which generally means it has to hit 600 worldwide.
Okay, because it's predicting that's like a 60. Well, they're looking at 60 for the weekend in America alone. So
yeah.
Is that good?
It's solid, but not amazing.
Okay.
It's still got 3 weeks, though, doesn't it? It's still got about 3 weeks.
Yeah. So, I think that 600 feels like the over/under on this one.
Do you think it will hit it?
I don't know. It's so tough to call because, a $65 million opening weekend is solid, but usually that means it'll top out around 160, 170 domestic, which means it still has to do 400 overseas, which I just don't know. I don't know how it's going to do overseas.
Yeah.
Did this get a release in China?
I think it will be.
So
the way China ate up Aquaman, I can't see them not liking this one.
Well, the rest of the world, I find the rest of the world kind of eat up DC better than what the Americans, funny enough, and what the stateside does majority of the time.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll keep an eye on it and we'll see. But, my fingers are crossed. They did say that they're ready to go with a sequel. And I think it was the producer who said, he's like, you won't have to wait that long for another one because we're ready to go. So
I think at the end of the day, if The Rock says we're going to make a second one, I think they're going to make a second one.
Yeah.
I don't think the money's really going to come into play, but it is like they kind of also need to be realistic. Like, let's be honest. People don't turn up in droves like they do to see a Marvel movie. DC doesn't have the brand confidence of the audience that Marvel does, and particularly the last 6 to 12 months, Warner Brothers and DC have had a very, very, very public, um, what would you say, other than dumpster fire? you know, there's they have to garnish a lot of goodwill, and I mean, just I'm sure Aaron can attest to this. Like, people don't go to the cinema like they used to. Even now, like, even though it's much safer and everything, like, people still aren't turning up like they used to, unless it's a Marvel movie. And DC have a long way to go to get the public on side at the moment. And is a movie with The Rock playing Black Adam going to make 600 million worldwide? I just can't see it happening. But the movie is good enough to warrant a sequel, and I hope, similar to like a Batman Begins or Shazam or whatever, like it does find an audience when it hits home release. I think that's where it might
Yeah.
take
Well,
off.
I do think that yes, there will be a certain amount of leeway given for it if it does. Oh,
They have
maybe
to.
it doesn't. Yeah, but because it's not like it stops making money the second it's out of theaters. There is home video, and there is digital, and there is streaming, and there is merchandise. So there are other streams of revenue that will be taken into account. So if it makes 500, I'm sure that's probably still good enough. But yeah, I just didn't realize how expensive this one was. But on the plus side, you can tell when you watch
Yeah,
the
but I'd say
movie. It's
you can see
certainly,
it. You can
yeah,
It's
see
you
on
it.
the
can see
screen,
it.
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, what I'm finding over the weekend, like just with my work, is that the numbers are increasing, which is a good thing. Like obviously for me, that tells me that it's garnering pretty good word of mouth. Like with
Hmm.
with my workplace in particular, that's all I really could talk about. Is it did start off a little quieter than expected, and then come the weekend, a lot of people have started to roll in, which is um, positive signs, which is good. That means for me, that looks like word of mouth is getting around that it actually isn't enjoying. I mean, my parents went and saw it for God's sake, and they're 70. So,
Oh wow.
and yeah, I know. Dad's like, I want to go see it. I'm like, it's a superhero film. That's all right. It's The Rock. I'm like, it's a superhero film. You all want to see it? I'm like, okay. And they loved it. And then they're in their 70s. So
Yeah,
it,
oh,
bring,
that's
it
I
brings
great.
everybody.
genuinely didn't expect the crowd that I saw yesterday. Like I said, admittedly, the weather would have played a hand in that. Um, but that also means it wouldn't have just been happening at my cinema. Like, people, it's been a wet, shitty weekend here, and people are going to going to the movies. And if you want to see like a movie to please sort of everyone in the family at the moment, like, what else is there? There's not really anything out at the moment that can do that. And you know, the only other thing that should be making money at this time of year is the Halloween movie, and it's just dropping like, you know it's dropping like crazy
Oh,
for the other
eighty
reasons.
percent 80
Yeah,
percent from last
the
weekend to
word
this
of
weekend.
mouth is terrible for that movie, and rightfully so. But yeah, this movie, I think, has come out at the right time. Funnily enough.
Yeah, especially because it has been a minute since anything really big has been in theaters, and then we've got 3 weeks before Wakanda Forever, so that all should help it as well.
Yeah,
But we should start wrapping things up. We will be talking about Black Adam again in the future, and I guess I'll say right now, next time we'll be doing a little Q&A. We'll do a little Black Adam mailbag. So please send your messages. Send any questions or thoughts about Black Adam. We want to hear what you all thought. Send those to Holy BatCast at rf4rm.com, because the next episode will be dedicated to answering your questions about the movie or just in general. So send those to Holy BatCast at rf4rm.com. Hopefully we'll get Jamie on that one, so then we can also hear his review of the film. But I want to give some closing thoughts and some letter grades for Black Adam. Brendan, take it away.
it is my favorite superhero movie I've seen this year. It's my favorite DC movie I've seen this year. It's funny how you said, like, it's felt like a really long time since there's been a DC movie. I mean, like that, and this isn't to say anything bad about the Batman. It's been a long time since there's been a DC extended universe movie. Um, the last one was the Suicide Squad, and that was what, 14, 15 months ago.
Yeah.
So it has been quite a while since we've seen a DC extended universe movie, and like I said at the start, guys, like, for a movie that I had little interest in, um, it really blew me away. I had a great time watching it. I don't think my schedule will allow for it, but I'd love to go and see it again on the big screen. I'd love to take Jess to go and see it on the big screen. Like, I think she'd really like it as well. It entertained me and pleased me in ways far greater than I expected. And I'm kind of like you, Aaron. I kind of got sick of The Rock talking this movie up as well. I'm like, dude, we get it. Like, just you've been, if I heard the hierarchy of the DC universe is going to change one more friggin' time, I swear. And I don't think the hierarchy changed, but it certainly is good to see a DC universe movie come out again. That it's very much like Andy said. It's very much like a Wonder Woman or an Aquaman. It's just a solid, entertaining comic book movie that knows what it is, it embraces it, and it's a great time at the movies. And yeah, I can't wait to see what the future holds for this character, which I can't believe I'm saying. But just the DC universe in general, it feels like we could be at a bit of a crossroads here, and fingers crossed that it all pays off.
And what's your letter grade?
I'm gonna go a B plus.
All right. Aaron, what about you?
Yeah, I found it extremely entertaining, and I just can't believe, like this year, how much DC has literally owned this year. For me, anyway, like the Batman, I thought was okay. It was good. Like I kind of fell in the same sort of area you all fell with the Batman, but I still enjoyed it. And Black Adam was extremely entertaining, and I just, like I said at the start, when I went to the cinema, I kind of lowered my expectations now, but this movie blew it out the park. It was literally like opening up a comic book. I opened up a comic book for 2 and a bit
Yep.
hours. Everything was a splash page. Everything was amazing. It looked amazing. I had a bloody great time in the actual movie. The Rock was great. JSA were great. Like even with when it comes to most movies, it's like, what would I rewatch again? That's how I grade most things. It's like, okay, I could watch that again. Oh, I won't watch that again. And like Black Adam, I'll definitely watch it again. And like, I mean, like you, Brendan, I want to take my wife as well. Clearly, we left our wives at home, so I want to take my wife as well to go and see it. So I think she'll absolutely love it. And everyone that a lot of people come up to me, and then because they know I'm a big DC fan, they're like, "What's Black Adam like?" I'm like, "Go see it. It's bloody entertaining." And at the end of the movie, I message them like, "What do you think?" And they're like, "It was so good." So I'm glad. Like, I'm hopefully word of mouth spreads for this film, and it has the legs for at least the next 3 weeks before Wakanda Forever comes out. That it garners a fair chunk of change at the box office in order for it. I mean, like Brendan said, like if The Rock wants something, he's going to get it. Clearly, he gets what he wants. He's a very influential man in Hollywood, but I'm really hoping that we get to see more of this character, and I'm really hoping we get to see him take on Superman. I'm hoping to see him see Shazam. That's one thing I'm really looking forward to if it was to take place, is him and Shazam meeting. Like I know we got the whole Superman
Yeah,
thing.
I'm more interested in that than Superman.
Yeah,
that's
because
something The Rock is pushing, but it's Shazam. He needs to meet the Shazam.
Because this film is so interlaced with the Shazam mythology. It's like, my God, if he was to meet the Shazam family, I just think that for me, I'm more excited for that. But I'm excited to see Cavill as well. I just want to see more. I just want more of everything. Is that greedy of me? But
no, that's how it works.
So, but yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great, and I'm probably going to go with an A-, I think, for this one.
All right.
Just quickly, Andy, I just wanted to jump in on what Aaron said, and it's true, and it's something I hadn't thought of till he said it. The rewatchability of this movie is right up there. It really is. Like, and again, I'm not wanting to take pot shots at the Batman, but that's something that goes against that movie for me. Is am I going to want to watch 3 hours plus of dark, gritty noir, or am I going to want to watch 2 hours of this comic book spectacle? And I think, out of those two movies this year, I'm going to reach for Black Adam in terms of rewatchability. That was a really good point that I hadn't thought of.
Mm-hmm. Well, make it 3. We all saw the same movie, and I think we all feel the same. I can't believe you guys left your wives at home. That's just mean.
It's what we do.
Man, And we can't all afford babysitters. We're not all rich with that bloody with the
That
podcast
cost
money
money.
you earn.
Yeah.
Well, I just, I guess I just love my wife more. I don't know.
Or we want to watch it in peace.
But yeah, my wife came and she also accompanied me to the
And I was
movie.
going to say, and she saw the movie.
That's something personal I don't need to hear about Brendan. Okay.
And I mean, The Rock gets what he wants, like you said. But she loved it too, which is great. And I think it was you just said it, Brendan. Comic book spectacle. Yes, that's what this movie is. That's what I wanted. That's what it delivered, and it delivered it 110%. It was so fun, and I mean, I just echo everything that you guys said. It's fun. It's big. It's exciting. It's action packed. It is a great big, awesome, entertaining comic book movie, and there ain't nothing wrong with that. I would echo what you said, Brendan. It's my favorite superhero movie I've seen this year, and I was already looking forward to it, but it did exceed my expectations. And when it was over, I was like, that rocked. Pardon the pun, but that movie freaking rocked. That's the best way I can say it. And I had a great time with it. And I can't wait to see it again. And I can't wait to own it because, as both of you guys said, it's one I think I'm going to put in pretty often because it's just like picking up your favorite comic book. It delivers on that. And I love it for it. So I'm actually right where you are, Brendan, at a B+. I think that it is a great spectacle of a comic book movie. It's not super deep, but damn it gets the job done.
Yep.
So 2 B+ and A- from us for Black Adam. Well done, The Rock. Good for you. We dug it, and we can't wait to see what's next, not only for Black Adam, but the JSA and of course Superman. All those things. All brought to us thanks to 2 hours of Black Adam, which we love. So there you have it. We are going to talk about it some more, I'm sure. And again, if you've got something for us, send that to Holy BatCast at rf4rm.com. Before we say goodbye, though, we also have to give a shout out to our other sponsor, True Classic Tees. True Classic, they are the brand that makes t-shirts that actually fit, and they're super soft. So no matter what your body type, finding the right t-shirt can be frustrating. Some t-shirts are tight in all the wrong places or they're too big, but not True Classic. True Classic has helped over 2 million men get their fit on at an affordable price. But you get the best deal. You get 25% off with the promo code BATCAST at trueclassic.com. So go to trueclassic.com, take a look at it, and check out some of those things. You might be wearing the wrong clothes. It's time to level up. Highlight your greatest assets with a t-shirt that you can confidently throw on anytime. You need True Classic. Their tees are snug around the arms and chest to make your muscles pop and looser around the torso for added comfort. So check it out. Go to trueclassic.com. It's something that you will love, and so will everyone else. You'll like how you look and get that 25% off with that promo code BATCAST. So True Classic, look good and feel good. Big thank you to them and to Manscaped for sponsoring Holy BatCast today. We truly appreciate it. And thank you to you, Brendan and Aaron, for joining me to talk about Black Adam. Aaron, congrats on your first episode of Holy BatCast.
Thank you for the invite. I really do appreciate it. You guys, I listen to you. I mean, I'm going to sound like a fanboy, but I listen to you every week. When Brendan asked me, I was very nervous. I'm like, oh my god, I'm going to meet Andy. Oh my god,
I'm a pretty big deal. I don't want to brag. But I mean...
but no, thank you so much for the invite, Brendan, and Andy. Thank you for allowing it, and yeah, I had a great time. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
It was truly our pleasure. It was great to have you. Where can our folks find you if they'd like to?
If you want to follow my ramblings, you can just find me on Twitter. It's at Aaron Kajanto. If it's hard to spell, just go to Andy's followers or Brendan's followers. You can find me there. And if you really want to.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Aaron, and Brendan. Thank you as well. Thank you both for getting up nice and early.
That's okay. It had to happen.
It did.
We needed to talk about this movie.
We sure did, and we did. Good for us. Tell our friends where they can find you too.
You can find me on Twitter at Lowy007 or in the Real Fans groups, watching scary movies at the moment.
As we do. It's what we do. All right, folks, I already told you where to find me. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for listening to us gab on about Black Adam. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. If you didn't, I'm sorry. But, hey, wait for the next one. But thanks for joining us on the show. We do appreciate it. Please do subscribe wherever you get your podcast so you never miss an episode. Please visit holybatcast.com or find Holy BatCast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. Again, send us something for the Q&A episode next time. Send that to holybatcast@rf4rm.com. Our theme music was created by the very talented Gaurav Venkateswar. His work can be found at gvtunes.com. And don't forget to check out our sponsors. Go to manscaped.com, do some shopping, and use the promo code BATSCAPED for 20% off and free shipping. Or head over to trueclassic.com. Look for some t-shirts or some apparel. But if you're going to make a purchase, use the promo code BATCAST for 25% off. But that'll do it for this episode. Thanks to Aaron and Brendan. On behalf of all of us, we'll see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Holy BatCast is not affiliated with Warner Brothers or DC Entertainment. The views and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for. Should it be same black time, same black channel,
see,
or
I was thinking that, but
that
that's
feels weird.
Mm.
I don't know. Same Teth time, same Teth channel. That doesn't sound right either.
No.
Jesus.
I guess we'll stick with bats. It's perfect for October anyway.
Sure.
The Aussies have taken over the asylum.
You love it.
Like a little Aussie sandwich. Okay.